So the first one we have seen the operation, but once again I will revise it so that we didn't complete this topic in the last class. So I'm once again repeating it. Okay. So the compact fluorescent lamps. So this is the compact fluorescent lamp. So compact fluorescent lamps are the miniatures or curly versions of long-sized fluorescent tubes. So these compact fluorescent lamps, they have the efficiency of the fluorescent tubes that we use in our houses as well as in many commercial buildings. Fluorescent lamps are used, as well as they are very popular and convenient to use, such as incandescent lamps. Okay, and compact fluorescent lamps. The energy consumption by these lamps will be approximately 75% less than the incandescent lamps, and the heat produced by these lamps will be 75% less than the heat produced by the incandescent lamps. So when you compare the compact fluorescent lamps with respect to the incandescent lamps, when compared to incandescent lamps, compact fluorescent lamps, they consume 75% lesser energy, and the heat produced by them is also 70% less than the incandescent lamps. And the lifetime of these lamps will be around 10 to 15 times more, and the cost of these lamps will be 10 to 20 times more than the incandescent lamps. Okay. So compact fluorescent lamps are far better than incandescent lamps. So in this diagram, we can see the tube of this compact fluorescent lamp. Within this tube, two electrodes are there. In this tube, the inner periphery of this tube is coated with phosphorus coating, and inside the tube, argon gas and mercury will be there. And the in the bottom of this tube, a ballast may be fixed. The blast may be internally connected or it can be externally connected. In this diagram, it is internally connected blast. This is the blast which is integrated with this tube. We can see another diagram here. Okay. So here mercury vapors, ultraviolet rays, about that I will explain. Okay, this is the blast. This is the circuit of the blast. Today in detail we will discuss about the circuit of this blast. Okay, so let us see the operation of this mercury compact fluorescent lamp. So this compact fluorescent lamp is made up of phosphorus glass, means inside it is coated with phosphorus layer in the inner periphery of the tube of this compact fluorescent lamp. It will be consisting of inert gas and mercury vapors, and it is also consisting of an electronic ballast to create high voltage during the starting, and it can this blast can be a separate unit or inbuilt unit. Earlier it was a separate unit. Blast was connected externally. I can show you. There is a there. This is it. So here to this CFL tube, the blast. This is the external blast which is to be connected at the base. Okay. Whereas in this the blast is inbuilt. Okay. Okay. So let us see the operation. Okay. So whenever electrical energy is given, to this compact fluorescent tube, the what happens is these electrodes, when these electrodes receive electrical energy, the argon gas will be vaporized and hence heat is produced. Because of that heat, mercury will start to vaporize. Okay, and the electrons that are bound to the mercury atoms, they will be excited, and ultraviolet rays are emitted within the tube by this mercury. So these ultraviolet rays, when they come in contact with the phosphorus coating within the tube, okay, when these ultraviolet rays come in contact with the phosphorus coating, this phosphorus coating will emit the visible light. That is the operation of this lamp. So there are different types of compact fluorescent lamps. They can be either spiral, they can be spiral type, they can be tubular, they can be flood type, they can be candela type, or they can be globe type. Okay, the compact fluorescent lamps, you can categorize them into two types. One is uh, compact fluorescent lamp, integrated compact fluorescent lamp. Other one is non-integrated compact fluorescent lamp. So compact fluorescent lamps are of two types: integrated compact fluorescent lamp and non-integrated compact fluorescent lamp. Integrated compact fluorescent lamp will have an inbuilt ballast, and non-integrated compact fluorescent lamp will not have an inbuilt blast. We have to connect it separately to the lamp. So one advantage is there for non-integrated compact fluorescent lamp, that is, if there is any damage, if you want to replace the uh, compact fluorescent lamp, then only the tube, you can replace only the tube. You can keep the blast as it is, and you can replace the tube with the new one. That is one of the advantage. If it is an integrated compact fluorescent lamp, the blast and the tube, since they are integrated together, okay, you have to replace the whole blast and the tube together if you want to replace if you, with the new one. That's the uh, advantage for non-integrated and disadvantage for the integrated one. Okay, so let us see the blast circuit diagram for this compact fluorescent lamp. So these compact fluorescent lamps, they can be, they are available at different wattages. We know that any lamp, yeah, whether it need not be always compact fluorescent lamp, whatever type of lamp it is. Okay, so they are available at different wattages in the market. Okay, so the compact fluorescent lamps, the wattage of the compact fluorescent lamps which are available in the market, are the, it can be of 5 watts, 9 watts, 11 watts, 15 watts, 20 watts, 25, 30, or it can be more than 30 watts. Okay, but there are different manufacturers for manufacturing these compact fluorescent lamps. So whoever manufactures the compact fluorescent lamps of different wattages, okay, the internal blast circuit will not be same for all these. For the same wattage, if suppose a manufacturer manufactures a 5 watts compact fluorescent lamp, okay, if a manufacturer is manufacturing 5 watts compact fluorescent lamp, another manufacturer is also manufacturing 5 watts compact fluorescent lamp, then the blast circuit that they are going to integrate in it, okay, in that compact fluorescent bulb, the circuit will not remain same. Okay, so each manufacturer will have his own ballast circuit, which he will integrate it into the tube. Okay, or he will integrate it, or he will connect it to the tube. Okay, but one thing all the manufacturer will keep in mind is that the block diagram for this blast circuit will remain same. Okay, so whoever is the manufacturer, he will take the standard block diagram for the blast. This is the block diagram for the blast circuit. So every manufacturer will follow the same block diagram, but the components within these blocks, here you can see 4 blocks are there. Okay, the components within the blocks will vary. It depends on the manufacturer. Okay, so of course, as a customer, we will be we will be buying the lamp which gives us the required illumination. That's all. We need not bother about what are all the circuits or the circuit elements of the blast circuit. But as a manufacturer, as an electrical engineer, since we are learning this concept, we must know this, that the blast circuit, all the manufacturers will not have same blast circuit, but the block diagram for all the blast circuits will remain same, whatever may be the, whoever is the manufacturer. So you can see here, I'm showing the blast circuit separately with respect to the tube. Okay, this is the tube to which blast circuit is come. These are all the components of the blast circuit. You can see in this diagram, there are different components of the blast circuit. Okay, so you don't know the parts. Okay, the parts have been given. It has a fuse, choke, rectifier, bridge, capacitor, a thermistor which limits the inrush of current, NTC thermistor, and PTC thermistor, which will uh, protect against, means it will set the timing for the preheating time as well as ignition time is controlled by this thermistor. Preheating, it regulates the preheating time and the ignition time of the lamp. And it need not be whatever components that I have shown here, all the components may not be available for all the blasts. Okay, in this just I got some image from the internet, I am showing it to you so that you will get some idea about this. That's all, nothing else. Okay, so it will have a series capacitor, it will have transistors, some feedback transformer, capacitors, diodes, choke. Okay, so all these components may not be there in all the blast circuits. Okay, so for about this blast circuit, some manufacturer have designed it. That's what I'm showing you. Okay, so this is the circuit block diagram for the blast circuit of any manufacturer. Whoever may be the manufacturer, the blast circuit will remain same. It will not change. Okay, so you can see here the blast circuit consists of, this is the AC supply. So this is not the part of the blast circuit. This is the supply. So in general, in our domestic supply water reserve, that is 230 volt supply. Okay, so if you can see here, there are 4 blocks. One is EMI filter circuit, that is electromagnetic interference filter circuit. Next one is rectifier circuit. Next one is DC filter circuit. Next one is inverter circuit. Okay, so from there 4 terminals are brought out and they are given to the tube, which is connected, which is a CFL tube. Okay, so I got some image from the internet. It was very much correlated to this block diagram, so that's why I have included it in this PPT. So first, what based on the by looking at this block diagram, you have I think you have understood that supply is given to the blast, not to the tube. And so supply, whatever supply is that CFL tube require, that supply is initially given to the blast circuit. Okay, so this circuit is consisting of 4 components or 4 blocks, I can say. Now, by looking at this block diagram, it seems AC supply is directly given to the electromagnetic interference filter, but it is not the case. There will be a series resistor connected from phase terminal to the EMI filter circuit. Okay, so in between the phase input terminal and EMI filter circuit, there will be a series resistor. That resistance which is connected, it will be of very low value. It can be up to 22 ohms. And the main purpose of connecting a resistor, a series resistor in between the phase of the input terminal and the EMI filter is to limit the overload current and short circuit current. Okay, so in order to limit the overload current and short circuit current, there will be a series resistor, which is not shown here, is connected in between the EMI filter circuit and AC supply. Now, some manufacturers, what they do is, instead of connecting series resistor, they connect a fuse. Okay, so our main purpose of this resistor was what? To limit the overload current and short circuit current. So instead of using a series resistor, some manufacturers prefer to connect a fuse in between this supply and the EMI filter circuit. So now let us discuss about each and every block one by one. So it's better to show this diagram. Why there was this circuit was also not showing the series resistor. That's why I didn't show this circuit earlier. Now to explain about that series resistor. Okay, so you can see here it seems as if a directly AC supply is given to this, but there will be a series resistor or a fuse connected to this block 1. This is block 1. Okay, this AC input is, it should be outside. Okay, so it should be outside. So when AC supply is given through a series resistor or through a fuse to this block 1, that is nothing but electromagnetic interference filter, then what does this filter will do is, It consists of an inductor in series and one capacitor in parallel. You can see a series inductor and a capacitor in parallel. These two will block the electromagnetic interferences from the input. Okay, if there are any electromagnetic interferences from the input supply, then the series inductor and the parallel capacitor will block the electromagnetic interferences from the input. That is the purpose of this electromagnetic interference filter. Okay, next block you can see it is consisting of a full wave bridge rectifier circuit. Okay, the purpose of this full wave bridge rectifier circuit is to convert AC to DC. Okay, whatever AC input that is given to this full wave bridge rectifier, it is converted into DC. Okay, so this bridge rectifier, if you observe carefully, it consists of 4 PN junction diodes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 PN junction diodes are there. And next circuit, the purpose of this block 2 is to convert AC to DC. The purpose of first block is to filter the electromagnetic interference coming from the supply. Now next block 3. So block 3 consists of a polarized capacitor connected in parallel. Okay, so the purpose of this polarized capacitor is to filter out the impure DC coming from the rectifier circuit. Okay, so the purpose of the rectifier circuit is to convert AC to DC, and this polarized capacitor which is in block 3. Okay, block 3 is what? DC filter. Okay, block 3 is the DC filter. It consists of a polarized capacitor. It filters out the impurities of the DC that is coming from block 2, that is from the rectifier. So whatever DC that is coming from the rectifier, it is filtered by this capacitor, polarized capacitor. Okay, that is in block 3. Next is the inverter circuit. Okay, so once again I'm telling you this, whatever components are there in these blocks need not be same for all the manufacturers. The manufacturer can change any of these components within these blocks, but blocks will remain same. Okay, next one is the inverter circuit. Okay, it consists of 2 transistors. Okay, and these 2 transistors, you can see here T1 and T2. These 2 transistors, they create a high frequency square wave AC signal and give it to the choke of your tube. Okay, the frequency created in this bulb blast is around 20 kilohertz to 80 kilohertz. The high frequency AC square wave AC signal is created by these transistors, and this frequency can be around 20 kilohertz to 80 kilohertz. The choke to means this is given to the choke, and the choke will increase the voltage level around 1000 volts. Okay, so you can't here nearby to the tube. You can see a PTC, a thermistor to limit the ignition preheating time and ignition time. Okay, so you know about the choke. We have discussed about the choke in the earlier classes about discussing about mercury vapor lamp and sodium vapor lamp. So choke will increase the voltage level to 1000 volts. If you remember in the beginning of this class, I have told you that there will be a blast to increase the voltage level. Okay. So 1000 volts is the choke will increase the voltage level up to 1000 volts at the starting time. The voltage across the CFL tube will be around 1000 volts. Okay, since choke is receiving high frequency from the transistors, the choke will increase the voltage to 1000 volts. So at the starting CFL tube will be around 1000 volts. Once the CFL bulb glows, okay, so this energy is required, high voltage is required for the bulb to glow. Okay, so initially in order to glow, for the bulb to glow, it requires high voltage. Okay, so once the CFL bulb starts to glow, the voltage will decrease to the supply voltage, that is around 230 volts. Okay, so and this blast circuit will allow very low current to flow to the through the tube. Okay, so during starting, this is the operation what I have explained, and during the working condition, as soon as bulb starts to glow, the tube will start, means the blast will allow low current to flow and normal supply voltage is maintained within the tube. Okay, means in order to maintain that glow that is coming from the tube, the brightness that is coming from the, or the light that is emitted by the tube, to maintain that, normal supply voltage is enough. But during the starting, for the bulb to glow, we need high voltage. So in order to give high voltage, we need a blast. So what are all the components of the blast? I have explained to you people. Okay, what is their operation? I have explained it to you. And one more time, the circuits elements may not be same for each and every blast that are available in the market. Okay, so I hope it is understood by you. Okay, I hope you are able to follow. And if anybody wants me to repeat, I will repeat. If you have joined lately, if you are unable to follow, don't ask. Those who are listening from the beginning, you people ask. Those who are joined just 5 minutes before, for them, I can't repeat the whole concept. Okay, if you want me to repeat, you can type R. Okay, otherwise I'll proceed to the next topic. That is, the next energy efficient lamp is light emitting diode lamp. Okay, nobody has typed R, so I am proceeding. Okay, next one is light emitting diode lamp or bulb. Of course, in the PPT I have written bulb, but I am telling lamp or bulb, both are same, isn't it? Okay, so light emitting diodes are solid state semiconductor devices. They are more efficient than even compact fluorescent lamps. Okay, just now whatever we have discussed about the compact fluorescent lamps, we have discussed with respect to, we have compared compact fluorescent lamp with respect to the incandescent lamp. So when compared to incandescent lamp, compact fluorescent lamps are much more efficient. But when you compare compact fluorescent lamp with the light emitting diode lamps, light emitting diode lamps are more efficient when compared to this. Okay, so these compact, light emitting diodes, they produce little heat and higher quality lighting than any other lamp. Okay, so the light produced by this light emitting diodes, this is one example. In this image you might have already seen, I have already shown it, I have repeated this image. So this this is our light emitting diode. Okay, this this is light emitting diode lamp, not light emitting diode, it is LED lamp. Okay, so this is the LED lamp. So it produces very less heat and higher quality of lighting than any other lamp. Okay, so at the beginning when these lamps were introduced, when they were initially when they were manufactured at the beginning, the usage of these lamps was limited because they used to contain a single bulb indicator in an electronic circuit. Okay, there was only one indicator in an electronic circuit, so one single bulb indicator. So that's where their usage was limited. Later on, the number of LEDs are clustered to develop small lamp. So you can see LEDs here. This is one LED. This is one. You can see yellow color here. These are the LEDs. So here n number of LEDs are clustered together to form a lamp. Okay. So when it was introduced earlier, long back, so only one LED bulb was placed in an electronic circuit. So which was not much efficient. Okay, so later on these LEDs were clustered together to develop a small lamp. Okay, in a battery powered device such as charging light or flashlight. Later on it was done, means since people were not preferring LEDs, so these LEDs were clustered in battery powered devices like charging lights and flashlights, etc. Okay, now people are preferring LED lights. Okay, so they are available now in many styles. Okay, and they give many, they are much more, means the brightness of these lamps is much more when compared to your incandescent lamps. Okay, so they have completely replaced the incandescent lamps now. Okay, earlier we used to use incandescent lamps. Now these LEDs have replaced incandescent lamps. These lamps are 75%, they consume 75% less energy when compared to incandescent lamps. Similarly, CFL lamps were also consuming very less energy when compared to incandescent lamps. But when you compare this LED lamp energy consumption with the CFL lamp, these consume 50% less energy when compared to CFL lamp. Okay, so when compared to incandescent lamp, they consume very less energy, but when compared to CFL lamp, also they are consuming very less energy. Of course, it is um, more than when compared to incandescent, but it is consuming lesser energy than CFL. Okay, they are mean the lifetime of these lamps will be around 8 to 25 times when compared to incandescent, and their lifetime is around 4 times longer than CFL. Okay, the lifetime of the LED lamps when compared to incandescent lamps is around 8 to 25 times longer, and when compared to fluorescent lamps, their lifetime is around 4 times longer than CFL. Okay, unlike incandescent, CFL and LED lamps produce no heat. Okay, means in incandescent we already know. I don't know you people know or not, because nowadays nobody is using incandescent lamps. When I was in BTech, at that period we used to use, people used to use incandescent lamps, and when the lamp is glowing, automatically it produces heat. Okay, so if you want to, as soon if suppose if fuse blows out and if you want to replace it by the new one, we can't touch the bulb of the incandescent lamp with the bare hands. Okay, we have to use some insulating material, some cloth type thing to remove it or replace it. Okay, so and even CFL lamp also produces some heat. Of course, the heat produced by CFL lamp is less than the incandescent lamp, but it produces some heat. So LED lamps will produce no heat, hence they are cooler enough to touch, but they are more expensive. However, they are affordable over the long run. Okay, so for longer period of their lifespan is more when compared to these two lamps. Okay, therefore they are, the money that is spent to buy these lamps is not of, it's not wasted. Okay, the money spent is not wasted to buy these lamps. So this is our LED lamp. You can see the globe, this is the lower ring, these are the LED diodes. So this is our aluminum printed circuit board on which these LEDs are placed. This is the heat sink housing, so power control electronic driver, and this is the electrical connector plug holder. This is the contact stud, which is given, which will be in contact to the supply. So one more image is there. So this globe will be, usually it is better to use a diffused globe, so that diffused glass will spread the light rays in all directions. So illumination will be uniform in all directions. And this is our optical remote phosphor coating inside. You can use, okay, phosphor coating can be used in any lamp. So LED chip encapsulant, reflector materials, comfort coating, and thermal interface materials. This is the sealing and conformal coating, thermal conducting encapsulement for power components, and thermal potents for heat control. Okay, so you need not worry about all these parts. Okay, so simply in this, you can see in this image, lesser components are there. So you can see this is the cover, lamp body, base, RC driver, and LED PCB. Okay, print coated base. Okay, PCB means print coated base. Okay, this is the one more image: globe, thermal transfer pad and heat sink, LED package, electric connector, and the base. Okay, so let us discuss about it. So let us discuss about this LED lamp. Okay, you can see here, better to show you these parts. Okay, if I show these parts, you will be able to follow me. So LEDs are made up of semiconductor materials to form PN junctions. Okay, so these LEDs, yellow color LEDs, they are made up of PN junction with a semiconductor material to form PN junction. So P junction will have, you already know, you people already know, P junction will have holes, and N junction will have electrons in between. Energy gap will be there, energy band diagram, if you remember. Okay, so the P junction has holes, the opening for the electrons. N junction has free electrons floating around in it. So whenever electrical charge strikes the semiconductor, so when supply is given to this semiconductor, it activates the flow of electrons from N junction to P junction. Okay, so electron will start to move from, they will jump from N junction to the P junction, jumping through the forbidden gap. Okay, those excited electrons, these excited electrons, when they are moving from N junction to P junction, they will emit light energy. Okay, and as they flow into the P junction holes. So the wavelength and hence the color of the light will depend on the composition of the materials. And these LEDs can generate yellow, red, blue, green, or any white color light. So for lighting purpose, several white color LEDs are stacked or clustered to produce required lighting for any application. So you can see several LEDs are placed here on this printed base, print coated base. Okay, so they are available, actually LEDs are available in different shapes and different sizes and different styles depending on the application. Okay, so we can see here they can be diffused bulb type LEDs, they can be dimmable globe type LEDs, track lighting, pin type, pin base type bulbs, pin base, it has a pin base, if you see like incandescent bulb, pin base type LED, and they can be flood reflector screw in base bulbs. Okay, so these are screw in base bulb, flood bulbs. These are flood bulbs, they won't look like flood lighting bulbs. Okay, they can even be flame tip candelabra type LEDs. So they look like they are the flame, they won't look like lamps at all. It seems as if it is a candle with a flame. And they can even be LED tube lights. Okay, these are the different types of LED lamps. This is all about energy efficient lights or lamps.